Today, the sentence of the man captured by the judicial system who would be responsible for the death of the dancer Luis Bustamante was announced.
A judge sentenced Mario David Donado Magoan to 21 years and 2 months in prison for the murder of dancer Luis Carlos Bustamante Fernandez, popularly known as Luchin, who was found lifeless on March 16 near the Morgan's Cave. In a communique, the Attorney General's office informed, and I open quotation marks, the prosecutor's office was able to prove that on that night the defendant arranged a meeting with the victim at his place of work, and that with a firearm he forced him to kneel down and then hit him in the head repeatedly with a blunt object, then caused him multiple wounds in his back with a sharp weapon, close quotes. During the hearings, Donado Magoan accepted his responsibility in the face of the overwhelming evidence against him.
In the afternoon hours of today, the community of the Orange Hill sector decided to block the access road to this place. The action of the resident is due to the inconveniences in the water supply to their homes. The situation has generated delays in the flow of vehicular as well as difficulties in accessing the area by people who must travel through the traditional sector. Teleislas will be attentive to the development of this news event. And the Environmental Corporation Carolina managed to impose 100 preventive measures on environmental offenders in the department, and they hope to continue monitoring and be vigilant to prevent the community from continuing to affect the environment.
The Corporation for the Sustainable Development of the Archipelago of San Andres, Providence, and Catlina, Coralina, as an environmental authority through the Subdirectorate of Environmental Quality and Management and in coordination with the Control and Surveillance Group through complaints filed and inspections carried out, has monitored environmental regulations in order to ensure compliance in the archipelago. So far this year, 100 preventive measures have been filed to the same number of violators. The group of environmental inspectors of the corporation has been attending to a large number of complaints, allowing the development of actions aimed at the recovery of spaces and ecosystems that end up being sources of contamination, which are also altered by the community itself.
It is effectively time to give clarity to the community. One thing is the reports that we develop as a corporation. To date, we have approximately 600 technical reports for monitoring, infractions, and other activities within the department. And of these monitoring and complaints that have been addressed, to date we have a margin of measures taken against different offenders. We will not emphasize which are the offenders at this time. However, there are 100 preventive measures because many times we reach agreements with offenders to remedy the possible infringement.
The corporation asks the community in general to respect the spaces of marine species, avoid to cut down trees, not to contaminate aquifers, not to throw sewage water into the streets or roads, not to throw solid waste into the forest or sewage systems, not to drill the subsoil for wells or cisterns. By following these measures, we help to conserve and improve our ecosystems.
In other news, yesterday an accident occurred in the afternoon in the intersection of Las Gaviotas and Slave Hill, also known as Bolivariano Hill, where a citizen suffered serious injuries after crashing his motorcycle into a van. In the morning hours of today, sadly, the man passed away.
The traffic light intersection of Slave Hill and Las Gaviotas was the epicenter of a road accident where a citizen was seriously injured after colliding with a van while driving his motorcycle. The man, who was taken to the Clarence Lynn Newball Memorial Hospital, died this morning. According to reliable sources at the departmental hospital, the 60-year-old patient was admitted yesterday after 6 p.m. with polytraumatism in poor general condition with mild cranioencephalic trauma, closed abdominal trauma, pelvic trauma, and open fracture of the right tibia. After the medical staff performed radiological studies, it was observed that he had an unstable fracture of the pelvis which required surgical management, and due to the severity of the injuries in post-surgical state, he was transferred to the ICU, where after the attempts of the doctors to save his life, he died at 9:50 a.m.
Last Monday, December 12, the Chamber of Representatives approved the third debate in the bill that would create the Ministry of Equality, which would be held by Vice President Francia Marquez. Hours later, the result of the plenary session of the Senate of the Republic was known, which also gave green light for the initiatives of Gustavo Petro's government to become a reality.
Yesterday, the bill on the implementation of the Ministry of Equality and Equity was approved. The initiative, which will go to conciliation tomorrow, December 14, to become law after being sanctioned by President Petro, was voted positively by J. Pan and Mendez, House Representative for the Archipelago, who argued their support for said initiative.
Lograr esa equidad.
To achieve that equity and equality that we all yearn for, because poverty is not only in deep Colombia or in the rest of the Colombian continent, but also in the most distant department of this country that is struggling to achieve that equality and equity in education, health, and entrepreneurship. That is why we have put our hope in this project, and I vote yes for my community.
For his part, Congressman Jorge Mendez, although he supported the initiative because of the benefits it brings to the archipelago and the Afros in general, he requested to define the cause that will allow the real implementation and effectiveness of the project.
Tengo una gran preocupación frente.
I have a great concern regarding the document that the Vice Minister of Finance has sent us, and this is because up to this date the costs for the creation and operation of this ministry are not clear, since the ministry makes it clear in the document of Dr. Diego Guevara, and I am not worried about the cost of the ministry. Hopefully it will be the one with the highest investment. My concern is that we are not left halfway or only in expectation.
The proposal to be led by Vice President of the Republic, Francia Marquez, was approved with 139 votes in favor and only 8 against in the House of Representatives. On the other hand, in the Senate, the result was 61 votes in favor and 6 against.
The ceremony was held in the Departmental Assembly to recognize centenarians of the islands. The event was held in the presence of centenarians, family members, and officials of the Secretariat of Health.
A tribute was paid to centenarians on the island for their great contribution to the community. The departmental government paid homage to our most precious legacy and the most valuable treasure that they consider are the elderly who have reached 100 years or more. A beautiful ceremony was held to recognize 16 of these people, 10 who have already passed away and 6 who are still alive. Relative, friends, and acquaintances of each of these centenarians present thank them for taking them into account.
As you can see, in our country there are a series of rules that have sought to recognize the course of life of the elderly and recognize their dignity. Because of that, the departmental government today, after 3 years, should go planning this activity, understanding that we were the pandemic, we had hurricane. Today finally God allows to bring this act of recognition to the centenarian seniors. Some received in person and others who received posthumously, but that keeps the same spirit that has had in this to recognize what life has given us as a possibility. This is an act of paying tribute to life, and that is what we have done so far since the governor's administration was kind enough to open this space today. Finally, together with the centenarians' relatives, we were able to have this act of recognition.
According to the Social Development Secretariat, this is an activity that was sought to be carried out approximately 3 years ago and was finally carried out today. The ceremony ended with complete success.
The Secretariat of Public Services, through the contractor company Recolecciones Naranjo, informs the community about the special days and regular collection routes plan for this week on the island of San Andres.
Taking into account the agenda for the collection of special waste and plant material, the coordinator of the company in charge announced the agenda to be carried out this week. It should be recalled that the Secretary of Public Services reiterated the importance of the community taking into account the dates to remove the corresponding waste so that it can be collected and not give a bad image to the streets of the island.
For this week, we will start today, Tuesday 13th. We will be on a special Night Emission hill and Orange Hill. Also, the collection vehicle will be driving along the entire route of the hill. We will also have a special vehicle collecting plant material from the southern tip to Sisip. For tomorrow, Wednesday, December 14th, we will have a special day in St. Louis from Chamais to the National University. Additionally, we will be collecting plant material along the return to the island and on our daily route in St. Louis, Bite Hospital, and surrounding neighborhoods. On Thursday, we will be collecting plant material in the town area, and we will be in our downtown route that includes the New Bar, Rock Hole, and the airport to Juan 23, Government, Almendros, and the Obrero neighborhoods.
It should be noted that on Fridays, ordinary vegetable and white line waste will be transported by the collection team to the landfill for final disposal. To see the complete agenda for the month of December, the community may consult the social networks of the local government where it is published.
And in sport news, the Caribbean Sport Fest Children's Basketball Tournament has shown a good level.
The Children's Basketball Cup played at the Ginny Bay Coliseum has been a great success, and it has been able to integrate a large number of talented children into the sport of basketball. Motivated by the support of the departmental government, they are integrated to have fun and show their basketball talent. We spoke to the renowned coach, Luis Beleño.
The tournament, I believe, is successful, really successful, because you see and you're discovering a lot of talent from the kids them, and finally the kids them will end up here in the what we call the first level. You understand? So the most important thing is to continue the work, continue the tournament, and then we'll be again on the top of the hill, Colombia.
Giving continuity in the process to the children so that later they can join the elite tournament is of utmost importance for the benefit of the island basketball, as stated by Belén.
And Dorado defeated Los Astros in the first league tournament of the Departmental Soccer League.
The Departmental League, with a view of the next project of First C, organized the tournament to prepare the future members of the island team that could represent the archipelago. One of the most important matches of this tournament was the one between the Astros and El Dorado Football Club. Dorado Football Club won the match, and this is what Wilson Padilla, a player of Dorado, told us.
First of all, I want to thank God for the victory. The truth is that this game was not easy because it was against a team like the Astros, who are very well prepared physically and mentally. We have been rivals for years and we have always had a tough game with them, but thanks to God we were able to pull out the victory. We have always maintained our victories and we have always stayed on top, but this game belonged to them because if they lost the other game, they would have been eliminated. If they had won this game, they would have won foot in the door, but the defeat did not help them. They were a very strong opponent, and thanks to God, we were able to get the victory.